Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Local Conversation Podcast with yours truly, Anthony Yantz. Before we get started, I got to tell you today's episode is going to be at a local coffee shop here in Cocoa, River Road Coffee and Popsicles. Now, I'm not going to have any of the popsicles right now. Maybe when it gets a little warmer, I'll come back. But the coffee is amazing, and you got to check this place out. I mean, here's some of the details. Pause that screen, capture it. I can put it in the description, but come check this place out. It's amazing. So I wanted to thank them for allowing us the opportunity to do this podcast episode here. Let's continue on. Welcome to the Local Conversation. I'm Anthony Yantz. Today I have Megan Moscoso, dedicated city councilwoman from Titusville. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you
Good.
for having me on.
This is awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you've come from, and fun fact.
Yeah. So I'm from Havana, Florida. It's a tiny town outside of Tallahassee. I think we have one red light and one flashing light. And it's actually snowing there right now, which is insane.
Okay. I grew up in a blinking light town.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So when I think Titusville is small, when I think back to where I grew up, it's just, but I love it. It was a great town to grow up in. But yeah, I kind of lived all over the world. My husband and I, we have 2 kids, but we've lived in Guatemala for 6 years.
Okay.
And I love that. And then we lived in Malaysia for 3 years and kind of lived all over the U.S. in different areas as well. And then we somehow ended up in Titusville.
That's really cool. So what's one thing you love about Florida?
Oh, man. So
versus all these other places?
Yeah, I think I love the people here. It's just really down to earth. And I think our natural environment is amazing. I mean, I've lived in pretty developed cities and, big cities, and I love that. I love the walkability of some of those cities. But what I love about Florida is our natural environment. We've got beautiful beaches, we've got springs, we've got old Florida. So when people come here, especially friends from out of the country, they think Florida is just beaches. But when you take them to our springs and all the other things we have, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I've yet to visit some of these springs because, they look really, really nice, but I've yet to be able to get there. Well, I'm really excited for you to be here and to talk about some important topics. Let's start with why you decided to run for city council.
It was just a few years ago. We had some stuff going on in our neighborhood, and we reached out to our council members to ask for help, and we got no response. And that, for me, was quite shocking. So we kind of did we got matching shirts, and we did that whole annoying let's go to city council thing. Okay. And we, asked them again, and really just no response. And so I thought, if I can't get them to listen, I can't get a response out of them. I mean, it was like, here's your 3 minutes, sit down. And so I decided there was a board that was open, and I thought, well, I'm going to apply to it. And I didn't think I had any chance, but we're just going to do it and see what happens. And so I applied to this board, and I actually got on, and I learned so much. I really love to research, and so I learned so much, and I worked with a great group of guys. It was all guys and me, and they kind of took me under their wing, and so I learned a lot on it. But as I was on that board, I realized there were so many people like me who would come up and say, we need help with this, and nothing was being done. And I realized the only way really to make changes to get on city council. And so actually I wasn't going to run for city council. I was the treasurer on someone else's account or a campaign, and I was going to help him run and just learn how the process went. He ended up dropping out, and so there was a spot open, and I thought, well, I'll run. I'm going to try it, not realizing all that it takes. Yeah. But I'm really glad I did. I mean, it was a great experience. I met amazing people running. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here. And to be honest, I didn't expect to win. I thought, everyone tells you run the first time to get your name out there, and then the second time to win. So I'm very grateful that people put their trust in me, and I'm excited to be able to serve.
That's really awesome. And so that leads into why is it so important to be involved in local government? I mean, how do you see this playing out in our day-to-day lives? You decided to step up when somebody dropped out. you took that first step in realizing it's important to be involved.
Yeah.
So what do you say to others?
Yeah, I mean, local government is the closest form of government to the people. And so, people ask, what does city council do? Well, really, like, we shape what your neighborhood looks like. We shape the areas you're shopping in. I mean, the whole city. We set tax rates, all of those things. So it's really, really important to follow along with what your local government is doing. And I think, people are living their lives and they don't have time to get involved, or they get caught up in national issues, which is definitely really important. But if you really want change, it's got to be at a local level.
Yeah. And then when we talk about change as a community, we also think about education. We think about our youth.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that we don't necessarily put on the forefront is how we support our youth in our future generations. And so the impact of our future generations in politics is huge, yet it gets overlooked.
Absolutely.
Often.
Yep.
And so we spoke before, you talked about, sitting in car loop and reflecting and thinking, wow, there's a lot of people here. What would you say to the folks in car loop line? Like, get involved. Like, what are some ways to get involved?
Yeah, I would say, start, first of all, when election time rolls around, research the candidates. I think that's a first step. Start following what's going on in city council. That's something I try to do, is do a recap of what's coming up. And I think that's super important, and kind of alerting people, hey, if you're passionate about affordable housing, or if you're passionate about clean water, this is coming up. And, if you want change, your voice needs to be heard. And so just encouraging people that way. I've been encouraging people to get on boards that are interested, because we need good people to serve. And, a lot of people feel like I have to have all of this experience before I apply. You don't, and I'm proof of that. I think some boards, you need, specializations in certain things, but we need people who are good people, who are honest people, who truly care about the community to get involved.
And that's actually a very powerful point. What do you say to those who think that politics should be left to career politicians? I mean, I know you and I probably agree. We should probably stop with career politicians.
Yeah.
And we need to get some young blood in, fresh perspectives, and go from there.
Yeah, I would say there are so many career politicians, and you just see people climbing the ladder, and I think there's something to say for experience. We need people who have experience, but I think it's important to get everyday people representing everyday people, and you get people who are definitely connected with special interests, and you can see that through their financials. And there's kind of there's no glamour. If you're a true public servant, there's no glamour in it.
Right.
There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of nasty emails.
Mm-hmm.
But it is rewarding when you can help that one person solve their issue, whether it's like a broken sidewalk or, I think these are small things, but they're really important. It might be small in someone's eyes, but to them it's huge.
Right, absolutely.
So that's what I love, is when I can help somebody with just a simple problem. That's where it feels really rewarding.
Yeah. And so for you, when you engage with the public, you're probably hearing a multitude of stories. And so taking that all in and compartmentalizing it and getting it to a digestible thought, I mean, it's got to be stressful to hear all these sidewalk stories, to hear all these stop sign stories, to hear all of these things that the people care about. What strategies do you use to ensure your message is heard and remembered to these constituents? Because I think too often we have a lot of politicians that have a lot of word salad.
Yeah.
But then do they fall flat when they don't produce?
Yeah.
And so how do we navigate that? How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I was told really early on, don't focus on these little things. You need to focus on policy. And there is some truth in that, but you can't affect and change policy unless you know these things. So if we want to change certain things in our city, I need to know what's going on. So I need people to share these concerns with me. And I can guarantee your council members see it as well, but maybe they don't want to address it. I mean, there's no glamour in figuring out how to clean up a street but we have to look at, okay, what ordinances do we have? What is not being enforced? What can we change to make it better overall? And so they're little things, but we've got to know those things in order to make policy changes.
Mm-hmm. And so do you think there's value in looking at other municipalities and seeing what they're doing?
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that Palm Bay, where I live, we should look at how other municipalities are handling their business.
Yeah.
But it seems like sometimes that's like a no-go zone.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's obviously not what we should be doing. We should all be working together, even though we're not in the same municipality.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of the first question I ask when something comes before us. I do my research. I try to figure out what is Palm Bay doing? What is Melbourne doing? Is it working for them? Because we are similar in so many ways. And so for me, that's huge. I'm a member of the Space Coast League of Cities. I'm new on that, but I've enjoyed the conversations of, okay, what are we doing with this new bill that's banning, homelessness in parks?
right.
That's a huge one.
Yep.
And, Titusville doesn't really want to discuss it. And so to be able to bring up, hey, this is what Palm Bay is doing, should we be proactive?
Right.
It's very helpful. And so I love that. And also working, seeing the different processes for different communities. For example, I've requested many records from the city of Titusville, and then I requested things from different cities, and seeing how they do it, and things that are effective and things we can kind of take and implement in Titusville has been really helpful.
That's really good. What is one of the major issues you're hearing from folks in your area?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of just little tangible, low-hanging fruit things that need to be fixed. So, I mean, I just had a coffee and conversation with people in the community, and I invited them to come in, and it was more like just a conversation. Like, let's get to know each other.
Absolutely.
And, things came up like we need a crossing guard at this street. Things that I wouldn't know because I don't drive down that street. Things like trash. There's, why is there so much trash here? And, I don't have solutions for everything, but to take that in and to say, okay, we're going to work towards this. Clean water is a huge one. I mean, it's kind of gotten,
that's a stressful situation. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody wants clean water.
But it should be a no-brainer, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody deserves clean water. And we need to figure out how to hold people accountable.
Absolutely.
And move forward.
Yeah. That is a huge one. And I think just right now is building relationships with people. People don't trust politicians. They can't, it's very hard to get in contact with people. Nobody responds. You come up to city council, there's no interaction. Yeah. And so that's why I encourage regular people, just run.
Right.
Like, get out and meet people, go knock doors. I mean, I know you knocked a lot of doors. I knocked 5,000 doors, and it was great because I got to really talk to people, and it wasn't about my ideas and what I wanted to do, because you hear so many politicians say, okay, day one, I'm doing this, and we're going to change this and this. But I realized it wasn't about me. It was about what people in the community want. Right. And so that's been the exciting part, is to bring their ideas. And, we had this coffee and conversations, and people were talking about, trash, and someone said, well, let's do something about it. And I love that. And they formed a Facebook group right there, and okay, we're going to go out on, and they weren't just putting the responsibility on the city, which, a big part of it is, that's where our tax dollars go. But they said, how can we help? Yeah. And I love to see them be proactive.
Absolutely. We need more of that. We need, and I like seeing leaders and elected officials give the keys and the space and say, get some friends together. Yeah. Let's figure this out together. Yeah. Because it's not a one man woman show. It's us. So let's figure out how we can do it. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to send off into the world?
I think just, it's very simple, but be kind to one another. Very simple. And give people the benefit of the doubt. I think, there's so many people on both sides of the aisle that are trying to do good things in the community. And so just sitting down and listening to people and trying to understand their point of view, whether you agree or not, that's going to move us forward instead of dividing us. So.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I thank you so much for doing this. I hope that I can get you on again to talk about other things, not just politics.
Yeah.
This has been your local conversation with City Councilwoman Megan Moscoso. I said that right.
You did. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.